Houston, we might actually have a problem here. People are dodging Castrum like it's on fire. I mean, it is on fire, but you know what I mean. MSQ Trials are dead, and unbearably long super queues that are like cumulatively hours long that today we're going to be talking about this problem and about content that is relatively unpopular, or in more charged words, dead. The structure of this video is that I'm going to first talk about the problem at hand, which is a surface level problem, and then the lurking, lingering, larger problem that is behind that, and then I'm going to be working on discussing some solutions. Because this isn't just a simple problem, this has actually been here for quite some time now. We all know rewards and motivation are key to getting people to do something. Anything really. And this isn't a gamer or a zoomer or a millennial sort of problem. This is fundamental to human nature. Time goes in, reward comes out, and we want to optimize that. So what we're seeing here is inherently exactly that problem. And this is far from the first time I've heard about this problem in 14. It's a problem that any veteran of Final Fantasy 14 can tell you has been a problem for quite literally years at this point. It takes very little effort to notice that Praetorium and Castrum Meridiandium I can barely say it, my apologies, are just simply tremendously unpopular content for most players with a few key exceptions. Obviously, there's the Moogle tomestones that really incentivize people to get into these dungeons, and then those can reward you with amazing rewards in and of themselves. Although, if you look at some of my past videos to get something like the Ifrit Inferno jacket, you can notice I don't even recommend that, which normally would have been my go-to of like pop on Netflix, maybe do some coding on the side, maybe like just chill and do that. But even last run, we ended up like micro-optimizing it with Blue Mage. But I digress. Usually when there's Moogle tomestones, Praetorium is like one of the best things to spam. But obviously those aren't like a all the time kind of thing. They usually are between the like very end of a patch and going into like a future patch. Now the other really big use case for them, which is significantly more popular at the start of the expansion when people are leveling up all their jobs like what I did, which is when you run specifically MSQ Roulette, the Praetorium will give you an astonishingly large amount of experience, even at like max level, like level 89 to 90. That was such a huge dump of experience. It was like, holy wow. And it's really a reward given to you for essentially sitting down and turning on Netflix for an hour, tapping in to whack a boss once every, few minutes. We'll say few. Such devastation. But we've talked a lot about Praetorium here. Now, hilariously enough, that spins into the second option that you can get for MSQ Roulette called Castrum Meridiandium. We're having a Delubrium Regane moment right now. But the point is, Castrum, and that's all I'm going to say from now on for this video, Castrum takes something like 30 minutes or so to clear and gives significantly less experience, like significantly less. It's still good, but it's not enough in my brain. Because of this 1-2 punch of, okay, you can't actually turn on Netflix, history and the experience, history points to people actively queue dodging and leaving those groups essentially for dead, which at various points in time became considered acceptable, and then at other points, unacceptable. 3,000 upvotes over a year later, downvoted into oblivion a year earlier. Oh, how the turntables. But I need to be careful when I say that, because a lot of people's first instincts might be to assume that when I say something like that, that I step onto a soapbox and claim, oh, I'm a YouTuber, oh, all these people are terrible, oh, I never do that. I actually hate that kind of preachy, hypocritical nonsense. Reality is, I'm gonna keep it real here. When even I was leveling, when I hit Castrum, I would audibly groan, and if someone else left first, I'd be the first person to follow after, because yeah, it's a huge difference. And I think most people, when they're super honest and like upfront with you, and that they're not like putting on some kind of facade, will like pretty much say the same thing. It'll be like, well, yeah, I wanted Praetorium. Of course I want Praetorium. Then I could turn on Netflix and like tap in every few minutes and get a ton of experience and basically get a full level. Like, duh. But let's hold that thought for a moment and let's get back to the inspiration for this, which is this Reddit post called MSQ Trial Queues Are Unbearably Long. And they said a few things, but I'm just gonna choose a few sentences or lines from it. When I did the first trial of Endwalker, I sat in queue for a combined 2+ hours. Luckily, the second trial queue was skippable due to the trust system, which is a very important system, but there's no trust available for the third. Also, when I checked in game, there's none for the first either. And then they said, I'm sitting at the expansion's main story, stuck in the queue for 45 minutes and counting now. And I assume that during their queue, they made this Reddit post. One thing that they also did say is that they were on a tank 2 when they were doing these queues, which most people's advice would be, which I only know because it's been said to like basically everyone for years, is, oh, We're assuming you're on a DPS, just play your tank or healer, it'll get rid of the Q. Well, not so much in this case. But worse than that is that the trust system isn't active for 2 of the 3 Endwalker trials. Just checked myself actually, the first and the final one aren't available in this menu, and when I do go to queue for them, even on Aether in the afternoon, I'm getting a really big queue, and this is afternoon. Like, I mean, I could make it easily 30 minutes like long if I logged on at like, I don't know, like 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, like, this is a problem even midday. But now let's reel ourselves back. We've talked a lot about what I would consider the surface level. And so simply put, those are the surface level problems. I'm putting all of those in that box. And then when we dig just a little bit deeper, it completely comes down to incentive. The reward isn't there in order to make people want to do these forms of content. I was really kind of leaning into this idea earlier when I was talking about queuing into MSQ, and then you had the Castrum versus the Praetorium, a stark difference in the reward, which leads people to sometimes even recommend MSQ Roulette in their leveling guides, like me, because Praetorium's rewards are so fantastic that it's really, really good. Basically, I would always do MSQ Roulette and really hope for Praetorium every time. Sitting for cutscenes for like an hour and then you're getting so much experience, it's really good reward. But if I look objectively at the content, sitting down, watching essentially the same cutscenes that you've seen, at least in my case, literally hundreds of times for an hour, is madness. Such devastation was not my intention. But getting back to it, when we're talking about things like these main story questline trials, which I truly do genuinely think were marvelous, they were totally beyond captivating as I was doing the main story questline myself, they don't give much reward at all, like tangible benefits to your character or to your character's like progression. First trial, the Dark Inside, gives literally no rewards including tombstones. The final trial gives 10 aphorism and 6 astronomy for the weekly 450 cap. So 6 out of 450, you're gonna be doing that a hell of a lot. Like for the final trial, could you theoretically tombstone grind it? Yes, but it's also absolutely unrealistic to expect to clear with a group of probably most likely new players in a timely manner, majority of them being new players. In fact, you're probably going to be in the queue and going to be like going into like 20 minutes of nonstop wiping into a particular rotating mechanic over and over again. God, I wonder if that reference is gonna hit. If you've done it, you know. 20 minutes might be a low estimate for some groups. I can say that some groups, especially if you're not playing the healer or like bring a res, can just be like Wipezilla. Like you can be there for like easily over half an hour. Now let's talk on the flip side, because yeah, there are some fantastic reward sources that I have said on this channel many times. I know that I have a lot, like double the subscriber count than when I made some of these videos like a few months ago, but we have really good ones. So for Expert Roulette in and of itself gives you 90 tombstones for completion every day, absolutely destroying the literally 6 from doing like the final trial. But as I'm going to talk about in a later video, I don't really even do Expert Roulette anymore, because even that is outdone by Hunt Trains, where I get 10 tombstones per hunt and materia that still sells decently well. It's about 18k or so a piece here on my server on Gilgamesh, as well as I get Kupo nuts that I can trade in for more materia, and then a metric ton of aphorism tombstones, and it is very quick, it takes no effort, and Hunt Trains, I cannot emphasize, are very speedy. Now people might talk about Trial Roulette, and that is a great point, until you realize 15 tombstones is actually pretty small, and then adding 6 plus 15 is 21 from this, and so spending 20 or so minutes, and remember that was a pretty generous estimate for some groups. Wiping to the final trial might take far longer. This is going to ultimately result in more reward for significantly less reward, not to mention that this falls into the pitfall of Trial Roulette covering every single trial in the game from Ifrit Normal to the last trial of Endwalker. There's a staggering difference in how much effort, how long, and how much risk you're really doing, assuming doing any of those. There are going to be many groups that hit the final trial that literally vote abandon. I'm literally speaking from experience on that. Maybe everyone else who is going to tell me that I'm garbage in the comments has been blessed. My experience on that trial has been sometimes it's really quick clear, sometimes it is a vote abandoned material. Now I'm going to end this video here because, wow, that got much longer than I expected, but I have a lot more to say that I'm going to do in a separate video. But what do you guys think of this? Let me know in the comments, because this is an interesting problem that we've actually had for years at this point. Let's get some ideas flowing.